Hey everybody, it's Steve Hauk with Living on Music Quick Hit. And what a wonderful experience we're going to have today to talk with Bill Kalish. Bill, welcome to Living on Music, man.
Thank you. Enjoyed your stuff. Really happy to be here.
Thanks, man. And this is wonderful. This is combining a longtime musician like yourself and your bandmates with a wonderful lady who is a huge part of the Zebra Press and also other factions all around Alexandria, Kelly McConomy, good buddy of mine. And she is holding this Ray Artisans gig, which you guys have this Saturday, May 28th from 3 to 5 to 2704 Mount Vernon, Alexandria. What I love about this, Bill, is your band is Color School, and we'll talk about the evolution from Young Caucasians and where you are now in a few minutes. But you guys are called Color School, and this exhibit is the closing party for an exhibit inspired by the Washington Color School. Now, what is the relationship you have with that and the name of the Color School?
Well, in the first iteration of the band, we're trying to find a name, and I've coined a maxim that all band names suck until they don't.
Right.
Because, I mean, you come Beatles, what's that? Anyway, so we're trying to name the band, and Charles is a professional photographer a lot in the city paper over the years, Charles Steck. And he had played bass in a lot of bands on Discord Records and bands like that. Anyway, we recruited him, an old friend we were all couriers together in the 80s. We recruited him for the band and we're trying to name it. He said, how about Color School? And, you know, we looked it up and Color School painters did a lot of bright colors, pop art, and it just seemed to work great with a peppy pop band.
Right.
And we were a garage pop band at that point.
Right.
And we made a record and then Charles moved on to something else and I could go on, but you probably have some you want to ask.
No, it's really that there's a neat thing we'll talk about is the diversity of Color School and some of the music that you just released, which is a wonderful single, Gateau, I believe it would be called.
Yeah, it's the verse is in French, but it doesn't actually make sense, but it rhymes in French. So Jerry, our songwriter,
right,
is Basque actually. And so he has a strong connection to France and speaks and did the song in French. But Renell, our rapper, does not rap in French. So right. It brings it back home. Sure. It was a great little tidbit. I posted that in response to something that Larry Sabato at UVA posted. Yeah. And he came back, this is good. Oh. And so I was like, oh boy, Larry Sabato's fan, which, you know, that kind of shows me to be some kind of weird inside the beltway. But there you have it.
No, I love that. And the thing that's great about this too, Bill, this gig you guys have Saturday is that it's at Ray Artisans, which again was founded in 1992. It's a nonprofit organization. Their mission is to promote art for the benefit of artists. And I love the fact that Color School is coming in here as a closing party for an exhibit inspired by Washington Color School. It's a wonderful combination you guys have found. I mean, you've played all over the place over the years in your different bands, but this must be kind of a fun connection.
Well, this is kind of the culmination of things that Jerry and I have been doing since the 80s. Wow. And it's really fun though to be able to bring because what we have done in Color School over the years is we kind of brought it back to a very DC sound. Wow. We've got the rock and roll and the pop in there, but we have a strong go-go
sure
feel into it. And back in the Young Caucasians, we would play go-go shows where we would go to places where we might be the only white folks there. Right. And we're playing go-go music at places like Crystal Skate in Marlow Heights and Cherries in Southeast DC, Prince Frederick Armory, way out there in Maryland, Southern Maryland, 5-10 different Elks clubs playing with Rare Essence and EU and right. Trouble Funk. Right. And it was a blast, and they kind of took us under our wing. And I learned so much being a drummer about the pocket, because go-go is all about the pocket. And now in Color School, Gary Butler has joined us on congas. And for me to play with a conga player, it just locks it all up. Wow. And I've trimmed my drum set back to just kick, snare, hat, crash, because I'm in the pocket with the conga player. And if I don't have tom-toms, I don't mess around. And it's all I went to see a band called Krungbin recently. I don't know if you know them.
Right.
The drummer has got his head down in the pocket the whole time. It was so inspiring.
Oh, that's
And an
wonderful.
instrumental band, very popular with like the younger folks.
Sure.
Sold out anthem show.
Right.
Is
Wow.
a band you don't even know who they are, and they sold out the anthem. So I love finding bands like that. My kids turn me on to a lot of cool stuff.
No,
My older son is very much in the indie soul pop world, and can just turn me on to so much wonderful stuff. Familiar with Arlo Parks?
Right.
Went to go see her at the Greek Theater recently. Anyway, I don't want to talk about other shows. What we've done we had always played the Go-Go for years, and when we played at the 930 Club, which we played there a lot, open for Fishbone, and actually one of our guitar players now is a member of Fishbone from the Young Caucasians, Mark Phillips.
Right.
But anyway, though, we would always do the Go-Go show, and it was kind of an alter ego thing. And Jerry met Rennell, who's one of our rappers, at a thing called Flash Band. Have you ever heard of Flash Band?
I don't think so.
So Flash Band is something, it's run by a guy named Miles Ryan out of a place called Seven Drum City, which is on North Capitol around P Street.
Okay.
And they'll have like a potluck, and you show up and everybody pairs off into bands. You just meet people and you join a band, and you Flash Band. And then you do a show a month later, whatever. And so Jerry did this hip hop Flash Band thing, and Jerry met these two guys, and they did a show, and Rennell was one of the judges. Oh. And he came up to Jerry and said, I like what you're doing. I want to do it with instruments. And Rennell started showing up, and then we met Artemis, and Artemis and Rennell are very tight, and they have their own hip hop careers and prolific out. You wouldn't believe how much stuff.
Right.
But they play with us, and basically we've taken the same pop songs we've always played, but we're putting them in a different format.
Neat.
We also have a new bass player, and so he's from the hippie jam band ethos. And so we've kind of got this hippie jam, pop, soul, go-go thing going, and it's very organic, but it also feels very DC. And that's why the color school thing, the synergies are just crazy. And forgive me for using that word. That's just such a hackneyed word, but it's all there.
Sure.
So
and
it's a serendipity is what it is.
Yeah, it is. I love the fact that we talked a little bit about when we were in our pre-discussions, how it's a multi-generational, multiracial feel to Color School Band.
We're from the 30s to 70s. We're all different, but we're all the same.
I love
a lot
that.
of natives.
Right.
Rennell, Jerry, and myself, and Gary, 4 of us are natives from either the district proper, PG. I was born in DC, but grew up in Alexandria, shadow of the Masonic Temple here.
Right.
And we're local kids. The thing that we really liked about the Color School name is Charles had just done a photography assignment of the Color School artists.
Right.
And it was a DC name that's not political. And how many you got?
Wow.
There's not a lot of choices.
No.
So we felt like, this is our home, but none of us involved in politics. I was a government lawyer. Right. I had higher Hatch Act requirements. I couldn't get involved in politics. Now I can.
Right.
So I'm going to see what I can do this fall.
Sure.
Because things are serious. But
sure.
And certainly going to try to get the band out. I've been actually trying to get some folks in Richmond to get us down there. Senator Lucas is a firebrand, if you know who she is.
Yes.
Anyway.
I do. No, that's wonderful. And you guys have been going since the 80s, you and Jerry.
Well, off and on. Jerry kept going.
Right.
I quit playing music. I was in the Young Caucasians, then I was in a band called the Revelaires, which Kevin Johnson and the Linemen kind of came out of that. And a lot of those folks are in were in back Last Train Home and Jelly Roll Mortals, those folks. And but then in 91, I got married and moved to Honolulu, went to law school, University of Hawaii. My wife did her internship residency in Honolulu. The Army put her through med school.
Wow.
And
I'll be there in 2 weeks. Looking forward to it.
Well, we lived, I could see the grass on the inside of the punch bowl from my lanai in Honolulu. And law school at University of Hawaii was pretty chill. I still have a lot of friends there.
Right.
And we've been back a few times. People always ask, what's your favorite island? And for me, it's the last one I was on.
Yeah, that's the way it's been with me. We've been up there a lot. My partner Suzanne's daughters live there. They're both getting married this year, and that's why.
I've enjoyed your photo.
How can you?
I do know that you have a connection.
Oh, it's just incredible. But look, the color school got, were you guys stymied by the pandemic for playing, or were you in a kind of a mode to regroup?
It totally shut it down. We had a gig at the Capitol Cider House in February of 2020. I also was lucky. We went to New York City. My wife and I, on the President's Day weekend, we saw David Byrne on Broadway, and then we saw Mockingbird with Ed Harris.
Nice.
And then everything happened.
Yeah.
So it kind of shut everything down. We thought about doing Zoom things, and it never really came out, and we never quite figured it out. And we kind of actually used it as a restart. And it's always been Jerry and myself,
right,
with different folks. And we just decided to do a restart. And so we found a new bass player and decided to double down on the version of Color School with Rennell and Artemis.
Right.
And so we kind of we had tried to transition to another female singer. And during the pandemic, she's a very busy person. She's a professor at Maryland involved in video archiving, very big, high profile person over there. And so we decided to restart the whole thing.
Right.
And kind of stop with the female singer and I'm going with the hip hop thing. And it just kind of organically worked that way. We had this wonderful female singer, Camille Miller.
Right.
She showed up. Amazing story if we have time. She shows up at her kids were in preschool with Jerry's cousin's kids in Buenos Aires. She shows up in DC with a 6-pack, a guitar at Jerry's house and says, I found your songs on the internet and learned them. Let's play. Wow. And then we're like, would you join us, please? And she was the best singer I'd ever had in a band. Oh. So we immediately enlisted Jim Ebert, because I had worked with Jim Ebert on the Rebel-Airs album at Q back before he went out to LA.
Jim Ebert from Cancer Can Rock, if people don't know.
And I decided, I wanted to do it quick, and I knew that Jim could make a record that didn't sound like we were a local band.
Yes.
Jim could give us a national sound, and he really did. It's a glossy pop record.
Yeah.
We have several hundred CDs because right after we made the record and we're starting to promote it, Cammie moved to Singapore.
Oh.
And her husband, most of his business was there. She's Canadian, he's British.
Right.
They lived in DC for like a year and a half. That was long for them in one place.
Sure.
So it made perfect sense. I didn't see it coming, but nonetheless, it was just another reset.
Right.
I'm very proud of the record we made. Though. Jim gave us a great sound.
Oh, that's great.
And
that's called One City, One Love.
No, that's the new one.
That's the new one.
Hip hop guys. This is Close Enough to Fix.
Cool.
And it's all on the Spotify and the Bandcamp and the SoundCloud and the Pandora and the everywhere Disco Kid puts their stuff.
Wow, that's fantastic. And look, I'm hoping the best for the Color School as this thing continues to kind of churn, but then someday we'll be out of this thing. And this weekend, again, everybody, it's May 28th, Ray Artisans on Mount Vernon. You would be extremely lucky to catch this band in this. And if you look behind me, this is one room at the Ray Artisans establishment.
You're down there right now.
You bet. And so, this is just a wonderful combination between this band Color School with these veteran musicians. And they're there to really close the party for the exhibit sponsored by Washington Color School, which again was an art movement starting in the 50s and went through the 70s. It's
the only art movement indigenous to Washington, D.C.
Oh, wow.
And so that was why it just seemed like a great thing to pull up for name of the band. And I noticed now all of these things, if they're not already claimed, these are actually for sale. Is that not correct?
I believe so. And
yes, so you can take home a piece of this show if you're lucky enough to get one that hasn't already been claimed.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, in general, it is going to be a wonderful event. I'm urging everybody to get down to Del Rey Artisans, celebrate Del Rey Artisans, celebrate the Washington Color School, and
3 to 5 p.m.
rock, pop, go it out with this wonderful band, Color School, with Bill Kalish. Bill, thanks so much for being on Living on Music with me, man.
Thank you. Once we get a hit, we'll be back.
Yes. And everybody, again, Del Rey Artisans this Saturday, May 28th from 3 to 5, Mount Vernon Avenue in Alexandria. Bill Kalish, good luck with Color School. Let's keep in
Thanks,
close
Steve.
touch, my friend.
Take care.
All right. You too, man.